Greetings everybody and welcome back to a brand new episode of Some Bond Geek Talks About with me, your host. The name's Stevens, Henry Stevens. Everybody, how do you do? I hope you're all well. Hope you're enjoying a good Bond film, a good Bond book, a good Bond video game, a good James Bond, whatever makes you part of this glorious fandom. It's such a privilege and a pleasure to have you here on this show. Right everybody, today we are going to discuss, I think, one of the most important actually films in the 007 franchise, and I will go as far as saying, in my opinion, one of the films that actually saved the franchise bit, and that is the film For Your Eyes Only. But before we get into For Eyes Only, everybody, can I just also ask, if I may, just do my customary just a bit of house cleaning, everybody. Can I ask if you haven't already to like and comment and subscribe to the channel? I always love hearing your comments. And also, when you click subscribe, don't forget the little notification bell icon to see future updates and videos as soon as they come out, everybody. And while we're on this subject too, one of the great things about me doing this show is I've actually managed to meet whole new friends on Facebook groups such as the Ultimate James Bond Fan, the Ultimate James Bond Group, Bond Spotting, 007 Fan Club, House of MI6, and there have been so many more. And I just want to give a real big shout out to these Facebook groups. If you are watching this and you're not part of some of the most amazing fan Facebook groups of James Bond, you've got to go on there and you've got to join these groups because they are absolutely amazing. So I want to give a real shout out to them there, everybody. Really great. So thank you. That's the house cleaning done right now. Let's discuss For Eyes Only. So here is my quick initial thoughts about it before we go into more detail. I think this film is absolutely amazing. I think it's definitely an absolutely brilliant film. I think it's very high up on the list, but I won't go into any more detail right now because what I want to do is always on this channel. If you're new to the channel, let me explain. One of the main important things I do on this channel is it's about my journey with James Bond. I like to share with you all my personal experiences, my histories with these Bond films and my reactions to them, and just share it with you all and see if you've had similar things. And for me, a bit like Live and Let Die, I remember these two basic James Bond books I had as a kid, which was Essential James Bond and The World of 007. These were like, I used to read these probably like every single day when I was growing up. And I just remember looking at these books and looking at For Eyes Only. I remember like seeing the pictures of, Roger Moore's James Bond being tied up with Melina Havelock. I remember seeing like pictures of, Greece in it. I remember seeing a lot about the rock climb he does at the end, and we will get to that, everybody, believe me. But I just remember a lot of my youth sort of watching this. I never watched this on VHS. I have to say, this is one of the films I got eventually, I think it was like for a Christmas present on DVD. And I certainly watched this film. I think, do you know what? I think actually I got, Spy Who Loved Me, Moonraker, For Eyes Only, Octopussy for Christmas once, literally as a bundle from my parents. So thank you very much, Mum and Dad, for that. But For Eyes Only was a film I used to watch, not all the time, but it was one I did always pop in every now and then, because for those of you, again, who don't know, I used to watch these James Bond films a lot growing up with my grandfather, my mum's dad, and he used to love James Bond as much as me. We used to watch them together. It was great. He used to like pick me up from school, do my homework, watch a Bond film together. It was just fantastic, everybody. It really was. And I think for him, For Your Eyes Only was a good film. I think he did enjoy it a lot. I don't think it was like one of his like top favourites or anything, but he always like enjoyed watching it, that's for sure. And I always enjoyed watching it with him. It never really stuck out to me a lot as a kid, but I think For Eyes Only has got a lot better, certainly for myself, as I've got older. It's not really much for like the child fan of James Bond, I think, in comparison to, say, Moonraker, Spy Who Loved Me, and You Only Live Twice, and some more recent ones. It's very much a adult spy thriller, which is, again, another reason why I'm very fond of this film. But before we get into all the good points about this film, there are some negatives in this film. And for me, they can be summed up really in two things. Number one is, I actually think when it comes to the sort of, design of the film, I'm talking about the pacing and the cinematography for the most part and stuff like that. I don't think really, just to sum it up, I think the pacing and the look of this film isn't the best it has been in comparison to previous Bond films. Let me just explain. I think For Eyes Only is not the longest James Bond film when you count it for running time, but quite a bit of time. And I just watched this again last night pre this review. I felt the same way, everybody. I just felt this film drags quite a bit, certainly in the sort of middling section. And then I think as well at times like it's a bit too rushed as well. It's really all over the place. Normally with great pacing, I find that you've got a great pace. You just, you go on this really good steady stream. You have some really quick high bits, and then you get back to that. Just keep it going. But this film, it's sort of just, I felt it was going slower and slower. Then it went really good. Then it just went quickly back to that level, but it went down again, and then it went up. It's just, the pacing's all over the place. And because of that, I find as quite a few sections of this film really do drag. I won't go into too much detail about what they are, but you can decide that for yourself. But hey, it's just my personal feelings on the matter. The other big negative I have of this film is the James Bond villain. Now, I'm all for surprise villains, and Christatos, I have to say, going this film, I already knew he was the villain, I think, from reading the book, so it wasn't really much of a surprise for me, which might have been a bit of a contribution to how I feel about the film. But when it comes to Christatos as a villain, honestly, I'm not really that much of a fan. Now, full credit to Julian Glover. He is one of the most amazing actors still alive and working today. For those of you who don't know who this man is, he was in The Empire Strikes Back. He was the bad guy in Indiana Jones' Last Crusade, Walter Donovan. He's been in recently Game of Thrones. He was with The Saint before James Bond with, Roger Moore. Heck, he was even considered once for James Bond. I mean, Julian Glover is, without a doubt, British acting, bravo, sir. The thing is with Christatos, he's obviously designed to be a more realistic villain, which is great. It fits the film perfectly. But if you look at even the more down-to-earth Bond films, even the bad guys have that sort of uniqueness to them. That's like, say, Rosa Klebb had her, her style and how she acted in the film, and with Red Grant. Or, I wouldn't go as far as Dr. No had obviously his male hands and his coldness. Christatos doesn't really, for me, have that signature thing. That's the problem I have with Christatos. He has no signature thing, which you can either take as a good or a bad thing. Me, I just feel my Bond villains, even the more realistic down-to-earth ones, such as Le Chiffre further down the line, they need that little uniqueness to them that makes them them. Christatos could be a bad guy in any sort of franchise. Not recently actually, but a while back, I talked about rebooting Bond villains. Should we do it in the new continuity? And for me, Christatos is a perfect example of maybe a character that we should reboot and give something a bit new and interesting to. But hey, that's my two main criticisms of the movie. There are now, outside of those two things, a plethora of greatness in this film. Let me start off with the story. Now, the story is brilliant because there's basically two stories going along. There's the story of ATAC, which is obviously Bond's mission to recover the ATAC system. And there's the side story of the main Bond girl seeking revenge for the death of her parents. And these two stories perfectly, and I mean perfectly, intertwine with each other, go on their tangents, intertwine when they need to, and conclude to the same point. It's done magnificently. Full credit to Richard Maybar and Michael Wilson for writing this story. It is so good. It really is absolutely terrific. The whole two storylines, how they merge and come together. And the interaction between Bond and Milena, which we'll get to later, is utterly, utterly fantastic as well. I really have to give cool credit for the story. And I want to talk about the action scenes in this film. I talked about earlier about how this film really saved the franchise a bit. And this is how I see it, everybody. Obviously, after Moonraker, people are saying, it's jumped the shark, if you will. It's got too stupid, it's nuked the fridge. The intention of For Eyes Only was to bring Bond back down to earth, to get back into the nitty-gritty spy thriller. Bond relying on his wits, not really so much more on the gadgets. Example of that being is when the Lotus blows up in this film, stopping Bond having a sort of car chase with gadgets. Really, really well done. And for that reason, it's another reason I love it so much. The action sequences in this film are all about Bond using his wits and his brains to get out of the situations. And real nail-biting tension. We just start from the beginning. We've got the pre-title sequence with that amazing helicopter sequence with not Blofeld, and Bond, getting in and out of the helicopter and then eventually getting the upper hand. That was just so wonderfully done. Every time I see that, the For Your Eyes Only pre-title sequence is definitely in my top ranking 10 of all time pre-title sequences. And then, of course, you've got, the car chase I mentioned through Greece, which was really great with Bond relying on his wits in the most unlikely of Bond cars. I'm not going to remember the name of the car, I apologise. But that, again, it's such a great little action sequence. You've got the raid in Greece on the warehouse that eventually leads to Locke. Heck, before that, you've got the most amazing sequence in Cortina with Bond relying on his wits, which is really, really great as well. And of course, you've got the big finale of the attack on St. Seals and Bond rock climbing. Oh my God. You know what? Even as a kid, everybody, to this day, I used to sit on the edge of my seat thinking, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And I still do to this day. It's such a sequence that just puts you on the edge of the seat. And there's not, all it is just one man climbing a mountain. But it's just, the tension is so running high there. It's so great. And the stunt when the guy falls and he has to go on the road, it's so dead. He's like, oh my God. Honestly, it's just crazy like that. It really, really is. There's other action sequences, obviously in the film, like on the bit on the beach with the non-countess person. That's a really great sequence. The action sequences with the story are just so terrific here. It's just firing on all the right cylinders, in my opinion. The other thing I would like to mention in this review here is I mentioned a lot at the beginning when I did them, but I haven't really talked about them much, but I feel I have to here. John Barry isn't doing the score here, it's Bill Conti. For me, most known for The Karate Kid, original movies, and he's done some others. I think he did Rockies as well. Yeah, I think he did Rocky. His James Bond album is fantastic. For Eyes Only has one of the best soundtracks, in my opinion, of the whole James Bond franchise. His use of the James Bond theme, his own motifs in there, perfectly blends together. So wonderfully done. Absolutely incredible. Oh, sorry. While I've got it in my head, everybody, another sequence of Bond relying on his wits that's so good is the scene taken from the novel Live and Let Die, which is obviously Bond tied up with the girl, being fed to the sharks, being dragged by the boat, hitting himself on the coral reef, injuring himself, but using his wits and cunning to get out of it. So fantastically done. I have to applaud it, everybody. I really am. I'm applauding. It's so incredible in this film. It's really great. We've got to talk about characters right now because, that's the only thing I talk about. I've got to talk about Roger Moore here. Now, you might disagree with me, you might agree with me, but I'm going to say this right now. Even though this is not Roger Moore's best James Bond film, in my opinion, I think this is goddamn his best performance ever. This is, to me, the best Roger Moore James Bond performance in his whole tenure. I think he is just so on point, so brilliant in this movie. It is unreal. And I'll tell you why. You've got the traditional Roger Moore elements to him, the must not laugh with it, but not laugh at it, but must laugh with it side of him, like love driving in the country. But Roger Moore is given so many more dramatic scenes in this film, like the bit after that whole thing when he's talking to the character Melina, about before seeking revenge, first dig two graves, meetings he has with people, or like the bit after, the non-countess lady dies. And obviously it compiles up to the bit where he finally gets revenge on the henchman Locke, where obviously if you don't know the film, let me explain, but Locke is on a car on the edge of a cliff, Bond throws a pin in, saying this is for Ferrari revenge, and just kicks him off. Roger Moore shows that he really does have that dark, badass side to him, and he can pull it off so well. Roger Moore has shown in this film, as far as I'm concerned, that he could do the over-the-top fun bit, and he can do the serious, real character-driven, moments, emotional moments. He is just so good in this movie. It's just unbelievably good. I love Roger Moore in this film. I think it is his best performance, and he's just firing on all cylinders. I'll also say at this point, I don't think that he's looking too old. He's starting to look a bit old, but it's not getting to the point of annoyance. You can still sort of believe it, but just well done, Roger Moore, in this film. It really was, without doubt, in my opinion, your best performance. And we've got to talk about the Bond leading lady here, Melina Havelock, Carol Bouquet, I think her name was. This is, again, another brilliant example of an amazing James Bond girl. Because once again, everybody, they're not bimbos, they're real sophisticated, interesting characters. This is a woman who has just seen her parents murdered, go and set out for revenge, has, obviously a great use of crossbow, can stand on her own 2 feet, and actually doesn't need saving really in much places, if anything at all. She can hold her own. But she's a different type of holding her own in comparison to James Bond, which makes it interesting. She's not really interested in what James Bond's interested in. She's interested only in just finding and getting revenge for her parents. The sub-story is just so wonderfully done. I'd also like to say now, when it comes to this actress, I haven't seen that many films with her. I don't know how many she's done. If you know of any other films that this actress has done outside the franchise, please comment down below and tell me, because I'd love to find them and give them a look. I really, really, really would. I've obviously mentioned Julian Glover as Christatos here. Quick little nod to Holly Johnson here as BB Doll. A lot of people find this character annoying. Me, I'm actually okay with her, if I'm absolutely honest. She's only in little bits, and she does have a character arc as well, so I wouldn't really worry about it. Not really bothering about the henchmen that much. Let's talk about the MI6 regulars. Obviously, This is the first film that we don't have Bernard Lee in. Instead, they get Tanner in to replace him just for this one film, which again is all right. The Minister seems to having a real angry bad day mood at the moment, which is a little bit of fun. We don't really talk about the Minister that much, but he's been, again, a nice recurring thing. Let's talk actually quite a bit before we get into some OS6 regulars actually about Moneypenny and Q, because I've been complaining recently that there hasn't really been a very good Bond and Moneypenny sequence. She's sort of been sidelined a bit. I don't know what it was, but in this film there was that nice little nod back to how it was, and like real nice banter and real connection between the two. And for me, it was beautiful to see. Just absolutely beautiful. I love seeing it with so much. It was just wonderful to see. With that as well, you've also got Locke, who's just, he's all right. That's all well and true and good. But I think the highlight when it comes to new supporting characters is Topol as Columbo. Just brilliant. This is Karen Bay level brilliant. He's such an interesting character. He's a real good ally to Bond. It's just entertaining. It just elevates the film again when he's on. I love Roger Moore and Topol together. They work so well together. It's just magnificent. I love seeing those two in the film together. So yes, everybody, this is the question now. Is For Eyes Only as good as, say, like From Russia with Love and On a Majesty's Secret Service, for like, great spy thrillers, or other ones like it would be in my top 5? This is the thing. Is it up there? Because the problem is, and do you know what? The answer is it's just below it. I don't think For Eyes Only is as good as I think some of the all-time great spy thrillers, and I think it's because of a weak villain, and I think there's pacing elements in comparison to those. There's so much great stuff in this movie. I really thoroughly recommend to watch For Eyes Only. It's a great spy thriller with great action pieces and great story work. It is definitely, in my opinion, one of the most underrated in the whole Bond franchise, but it just doesn't quite reach that echelon of pure greatness that some other in the Bond series has. But hey everybody, that's my opinion of For Eyes Only. I want to know, what are your thoughts? Comment down below. And